Imagine a world where every single person knows exactly when their life will end. And not just their life, but the life of everyone they love.
Yeah, and it's not some, sudden asteroid impact or Hollywood apocalypse. It's this slow, invisible, creeping death, something no one can actually outrun.
It's a premise that just rips away all illusions, doesn't it? It forces people to face their final days with this awful clarity.
It really does.
And that's the harrowing scenario we're going to unpack today as we journey into a really profoundly moving book.
It is profoundly moving.
Yeah.
And, well, more than just chilling, I think it's a deep exploration of what it means to be human when that clock is ticking down to zero for everyone, everywhere.
Okay, so today we're doing a focused discussion on Nevil Shute's powerful novel On the Beach, which came out back in 1957.
That's the one. And the author himself, Nevil Shute Norway, he was quite a remarkable individual. His background really shaped this narrative in unique ways.
Right, because he wasn't originally a writer, was he? He started out as an aeronautical engineer.
Exactly. Developing airships, airplanes. And you can feel that technical passion, that sort of engineering mindset woven into this story. It's quite surprising, perhaps.
It really gives it this blend of, well, technical realism alongside the incredibly human drama. It feels so grounded, so authentic, even when he's describing something just unimaginable. He published his first novel, Marizanne, way back in 1926. And apparently he used the pen name Nevil Shute to protect his engineering career. I find that fascinating.
That's right, a bit of professional separation there. He eventually settled in Australia, which is where the book is primarily set, of course. And he lived there until his death in 1960.
So his background, from aviation to working on secret weapons for the Royal Navy during World War II, it gives such a distinct viewpoint for this fictional world on the brink he creates.
Indeed. That practical, almost problem-solving engineering viewpoint, combined with his wartime experience dealing with, well, existential threats, it gives the narrative this almost reportage-like quality.
It makes the unimaginable feel disturbingly real.
Precisely. So our mission today is really tailored to guide you through the most poignant insights, the surprising facts from this powerful narrative. We want to provide a comprehensive understanding of its core message, its emotional impact, basically offering you a shortcut to becoming truly well-informed on this chilling scenario and, well, what it might mean.
And just before we dive in, for those of you who might crave even deeper insights or want to reflect further on these really profound themes, we do encourage you to explore Mindful Moments. That's our YouTube channel. It offers AI-powered book analysis, really designed to inspire reflection and rational thought through deep literary exploration.
It's a fantastic companion piece, actually. Okay. A great resource for anyone looking to go beyond the immediate story and think about the broader implications.
Definitely worth checking out.
It really is. Okay, so let's get into the heart of this book. Let's confront its central, haunting premise, a world undeniably on the brink.
Okay, so the scene is set. The immediate aftermath of a global nuclear war. But what's striking isn't just that it happened, but the book calls it the inexplicable spark. It wasn't just one flashpoint. It escalated, didn't it? Almost like a domino effect from regional tensions. It feels terrifyingly plausible even now.
That's precisely it. And Shute is meticulous in detailing that progression, which makes it even more horrifying. It starts as an Israeli-Arab war, a regional conflict, but then it spirals almost uncontrollably into a Russo-NATO confrontation.
Okay.
And from there, devastatingly, it culminates in a Russo-Chinese war. And what's crucial for us as readers to grasp is how fragmented information became.
Right, communication breakdown.
Totally. The understanding of the full scope, the actual sequence of events, it arrived in Australia in this roundabout, almost haphazard way, relayed from Kenya via an American cruiser at Yap Island. It just powerfully underscores how knowing what truly happened, let alone why, was this desperate, almost impossible struggle in those final days.
And the weapon itself adds another layer of this grim, lingering detail, the widespread use of cobalt bombs.
Yes, by both the Russians and the Chinese. That's identified as the source of these devastating long-term radiological effects.
So it's not just about the immediate blast, it's something far more insidious, a slow poison.
Exactly. Not at all just the blast. The very nature of the cobalt bomb sets this terrifyingly slow, yet completely inescapable clock. The book mentions cobalt's half-life is about 5 years. Now, for those of us not nuclear physicists, what that really means is it's not a quick decay.
Right. 5 years just for half of it to go away.
Precisely. So the world would stay lethally contaminated for a really significant long period. It takes many, many half-lives for radiation to drop to safe levels. The chilling calculation in the book is that habitability might return in maybe 20 years at the latest, perhaps sooner, but only after human life is completely wiped out.
Oh, that's a thought.
It raises this really provocative, almost unbearable idea. The planet eventually cleanses itself, but at the ultimate cost of us. The Earth recovers. We don't.
And the speed, everything just fell apart, is jarring too. The book highlights this rapid breakdown of central authority, command descending to quite junior officers in most countries.
Yeah.
That detail really underscores the overwhelming nature of it all. Traditional hierarchies just gone instantly.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the utter speed and scale of the destruction that even the most established systems couldn't hold. So the immediate danger then wasn't just the explosions, but something far more insidious. The invisible, lethal, radioactive dust carried on the wind.
The wind.
Yeah. Observations from places like the Bontang Channel described much dust and the radioactivity far above the lethal level. And it mentions a specific wind, westerly, force 4 to 5, propelling these deadly particles.
Giving it that meteorological reality.
Exactly. It grounds the abstract horror of radiation in something concrete. It makes the threat feel pervasive, inescapable, like a natural disaster that just never stops.
Which, ironically, I suppose, brings us to Australia, the last refuge, but only for this temporary, fleeting moment. Its geographic isolation, especially the southern parts, offered this fragile period of grace. It sounds almost miraculous.
It does, initially. And the book explains it with specific science. No wind does blow right into the Southern Hemisphere from the Northern Hemisphere, sort of atmospheric shield.
Okay.
So that provided this temporary barrier, allowing for a brief semblance of continued life. But it was a reprieve with a definite expiry date, and the characters knew it.
They knew it was coming.
Oh, yes. The radioactive fallout was slowly, inexorably drifting south, weaving steadily all around the world. The book actually details its progress, noting it was south of Rockhampton at one point, just creeping closer.
And the predictions for when it would hit Melbourne, they varied from a month's time to 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks after the first case.
Exactly. That ambiguity. It must have created this constant, unsettling countdown. Knowing the inevitable is approaching, but not precisely when. That uncertainty with uncertainty is its own kind of torture.
A unique form of dread.
It absolutely is. The psychological torture of the unknown inside a known grim certainty. People can handle an immediate crisis or maybe a distant threat. But knowing the mechanism of your death, its inevitability but not the exact moment, that's a special kind of dread. And tying back to the cobalt bomb, that scientific detail of its half-life around 5 years, it leads to that truly chilling conclusion. Humanity gets wiped out, but the world itself becomes clean again. Habitable again in 20 years at the latest, and probably much sooner.
A future for wiser occupants, as the book puts it, without us.
It's a stark, unsettling thought. A very cold, hard truth presented by the science in the book. The Earth doesn't actually need us. It will heal long after we're gone. It's a profound, almost humbling perspective.
So with this grim reality setting in, the world's few remaining leaders, or what's left of them, are clinging to any hope or at least any knowledge they can find. And this brings us to the mission of the USS Scorpion. This American nuclear submarine may be the last operational ship of its kind.
Yeah, she becomes this incredibly critical, almost symbolic vessel, now operating under Australian command, interestingly.
Right.
Her mothership, the Sydney, is alongside at Williamstown, a base for the skeleton crew. It really symbolizes a fading past, a ghost of former military power.
And the key people involved. We have Lieutenant Commander Peter Holmes, the Australian liaison officer.
Right. And Commander Dwight Towers, the American captain. His appointment begins on New Year's Day, which feels symbolic, but it's really kicking off what will be his final journey.
On their mission.
The core mandate is to head north, first Cairns, Port Moresby, Port Darwin to report upon conditions. Then a longer 2-month cruise across the Pacific, targeting places like Panama, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, Dutch Harbor, Hawaii.
Just trying to see what's left.
It's a desperate attempt to grab any shred of information, no matter how grim.
And crucially, the Prime Minister explicitly says, don't take unnecessary risks. Bring the ship and crew back. The information is paramount.
Exactly. This isn't some heroic suicide mission. It's about knowledge, survival for the sake of reporting back. The value of even minimal information outweighs pretty much everything else.
And there's a scientist involved, too.
Yes, absolutely vital. Mr. J.S. Osborne, a civilian scientific officer from the CSIRO, that's the Commonwealth Scientific and Industrial Research Organization, Australia's main science body.
So he's there for the data.
He represents humanity's last, desperate attempt to understand the very thing that's killing it, to bring objective scientific rigor to the end of the world. His expertise is crucial for checking radiation levels, atmospheric, sea-using detectors on the periscope and in the engine room. He provides the only objective measure of this invisible threat. Without him, it's just guesswork and fear.
Okay, so they set out on this perilous journey north. What do they find? Those early encounters must have been pretty immediate, visceral proof of the catastrophe.
They absolutely were. The Scorpion's first leg takes them north of Luzon, and there, in the Bontang Channel, they encounter much dust and the radioactivity far above the lethal level.
Whoa.
It's not just a number on a gauge, it's this visceral sign of widespread contamination. A silent killer detected only by instruments. It makes the unseen seen. It's the first direct confirmation. The north is uninhabitable.
And then Manila Bay. Through the periscope, Dwight sees smoke over the city, confirmation of a nuclear explosion.
Right. But it's the eerie absence of activity ashore from 5 miles out, combined with the ship unexpectedly grounding.
Grounding in a main channel.
Yes, in a channel charted as 12 fathoms deep. It points to massive, unrecorded changes to the seabed, the coastlines. The world is literally shifting beneath them. Even navigation becomes a deadly gamble.
The maps are useless.
Pretty much. Then a surprising moment at Yap Island. The radioactive level is practically normal.
Really, a safe spot.
Temporarily, yes. It allows the crew this rare chance to surface, blow the ship out with clean air, come up on the bridge. That brief return to fresh air, it just underscores the suffocating reality of their submerged life.
Must have been almost painful, that brief normalcy.
A precious, almost painful moment, exactly. And it's at Yap they meet that American cruiser and get the first solid, though still incomplete, news of how the war actually progressed. A rare piece of the puzzle.
And Dwight also talks about the Swordfish, the sister ship, and its cruise in the North Atlantic. What did they find?
Well, dishearteningly little. They learned very little through the periscope. Mostly just saw the waterfronts of cities like New York, likely still physically standing, but devoid of life.
Silent cities, that's a bizarre image.
It's deeply disturbing. The physical structures remain, monuments to civilization, but the life, the activity is just gone, like a global ghost town, meticulously arranged. Plus, minefields allied and enemy posed huge dangers. They could only access a few key-charted ports like New London, Delaware Bay.
So even without a living enemy, the traps of war remained.
Exactly. Like the conflict left this automated legacy of death. And Dwight's reflection. You don't want to remember how a person looked when he was dead. You want to remember how he was when he was alive. He says that applies to cities, too.
Protecting the memory.
A desperate way to hold on to what was lost. It hints at the immense emotional toll of witnessing all that silent devastation.
So the Scorpion continues, off Queensland, then towards Canada and the U.S. Near Vancouver Island, they see this huge area, miles wide, burned and blasted. No vegetation, but the surface is undisturbed. What does that suggest?
That specific description points to maybe intense heat or concussive force from a nearby blast, but not a direct hit creating a crater. Like something incinerated all organic matter, but didn't tear up the ground itself.
Okay. And then Seattle. High radiation, 30 in the red, but buildings look normal. Unbroken glass.
Yeah, that eerie visual normalcy combined with lethal Geiger readings. It forces the captain to get closer, hail for a response. And the silence, it just solidifies the grim reality. A world devoid of life.
The visual deception is haunting. A city that looks fine, but it's a tomb.
Makes the invisible threat even more terrifying because you can't see it.
And then there's that incident with Yeoman Swain. He swims ashore. Seems okay, but Dwight orders him back, fears contamination.
Right. And ultimately, Dwight makes that agonizing choice to leave him behind.
His reasoning is brutal.
He says maybe he'll have eaten contaminated food or drunk contaminated water.
Yeah.
You tell me on the last day if you'd like to be 4 or 5 hours longer, because we wasted that much time on Yeoman Swain.
Utilitarianism in the extreme. A terrible calculation. Sacrificing one for the potential survival of the mission, the crew.
It's a decision born of the absolute extremity of the situation. Every minute counts. And the tension is compounded later when, chillingly, they spot Swain fishing from an outboard motorboat.
He survived. Or seemed to.
Seemingly defied the odds, at least for a while.
Yeah.
It's this fleeting, almost unbelievable anomaly in a world facing certain death. Makes you question everything. Was it luck? A statistical fluke?
Yeah.
The book just leaves you with that unnerving possibility.
So after all this, The perilous journeys, the risks, the science. What were the findings? The book says minimal actionable intelligence. Sounds like a crushing defeat.
Yeah, the futility becomes painfully clear. The periscope offered such a limited view, basically confirming what common sense already suggested, as Dwight puts it. Just stayed there, calling on the loud hailer for a while, and when nobody came down, we assumed they were all dead.
So the technology was almost useless against this kind of invisible devastation.
Pretty much. Our systems are built for one kind of conflict. They fail when the enemy is everywhere and nowhere, just dust. The actionable intelligence wasn't strategic. It was just confirmation of universal death.
Even the admiral back in Australia, he sees a measles outbreak on the Scorpion as this absurd holdup.
Right. He says something like, the fate of human life upon the world at stake, and we're stuck with the measles.
Gallows humor.
It highlights that bizarre juxtaposition of grand catastrophe and mundane inconvenience. A dark humor that's almost necessary to cope.
And there's disagreement about the radiation, too, between Osborne, the scientist, and someone else.
Yes, an old man named Jorgensen. He clings to this wishful thinking that the radioactivity might be lessening further north.
Hope against hope.
But Osborne, the voice of science, dismisses it as crackers, based on the data showing a consistent, steady spread. It's that heartbreaking clash between desperate hope and hard, undeniable fact.
And for Osborne himself, the mission becomes a chore. He preferred racing his car.
Yeah, initially it was an exciting break, but it becomes a somewhat boring chore. He finds no danger comparable with the dangers that he courted in his racing car.
Wow.
He starts seeing the cruise as a waste of time that now was growing precious before he could get back to his real passion in Melbourne. It's a chilling shift. His scientific detachment seems to extend even to his own impending end. He just wants his last weeks on his own terms.
Okay, so let's shift to how people actually lived in this twilight period, how they adapted or tried to. Many characters cling to routines, right, creating this illusion of normalcy. Peter and Mary Holmes, for instance, they spend hours planning a garden for the next 10 years.
Yeah, laying out new beds, building a fence, planting a passion fruit vine. Mary says it's going to be the prettiest garden of its size in Falmouth.
Planning for 10 years when they might only have weeks or months.
It's one of the most poignant contrasts in the book. They never had so much time for gardening before. They find this desperate comfort, this defiant act of hope in the ordinary.
Is it denial or resilience?
That's the question, isn't it? Maybe both. Finding meaning in the mundane, even when the future is literally erased. And Mary's focus is intensely on her baby, Jennifer. Worries about crawling, the paint on a new playpen, measles.
Normal parental anxieties amplified to an unbearable degree.
And Peter's dedicated search for that playpen, despite society crumbling, it underscores that desperate desire to shield their child, create a normal, safe space, even if it's temporary. The parental instinct at its absolute limit.
And social life continued in a way. Parties, church visits, clubs.
Yes, social engagements as distraction. Dwight goes to church, though he's not really religious. Visits to the pastoral club, described as this old traditional place, more English than the English.
Trying to hold on to something familiar.
These things provide a crucial temporary escape, a last grasp at what made life, well, livable. But beneath that surface, the practicalities tell the real story. Sustenance, scarcity.
The fuel crisis. Peter's struggling to find wheels, tires for a trailer.
Exactly. Necessities become luxuries. Distilling oil from coal is possible, but way too expensive. Petrol is hoarded. The Holmeses have tins buried in the garden. Tires are the snag now.
And Dwight, as an officer, gets a car and driver.
Yeah, an official Chevrolet. A stark contrast, highlighting that privilege of rank still exists, even in a dying world. Almost perverse, really.
And the city itself, Melbourne, starts reflecting the decay.
Oh, absolutely. Shops closed, dirty windows filled with useless stock. Streets are dirty now and littered with paper and spoiled vegetables. The city begins to smell horrid.
Why no street cleaning?
Not because of a strike, the book says, but because everything's just slowing down. A chilling metaphor for the world itself dying.
A quiet surrender.
Exactly. Basic civic functions just stopping.
Yeah.
Getting everyday things like socks, handkerchiefs becomes hard. They're going off the market. Manufacturing, supply chains, all breaking down.
And a hardware store takes payment in orange peel.
Yeah, when it closes down. Shows the complete collapse of money's value. It's useless when there's nothing left to buy.
And back at the pastoral club, that old man insisting on drinking all the port.
He embodies this pragmatic hedonism. Drink every drop, he says, because no good leaving it for the next comer with the cobalt half-life over 5 years.
Grim logic.
And he says, if I'm to die, I'd rather die of drinking port than of this cholera thing. A dark, defiant toast to the end.
Which leads us to leisure, distraction through passion. John Osborne and his motor racing.
A powerful, almost manic distraction for him. He meticulously services his Ferrari, runs on a special ether alcohol mix. He stockpiled 8 barrels secured before I bought the car.
He planned ahead.
And the Australian Grand Prix has moved up, advanced to August 17th. This desperate desire to experience these things one last time.
A final burst of life.
Absolutely. But the race day itself is chaotic. Held at Torridon, not Albert Park, not enough marshals. 9 crashes, 4 ambulance cases, 1 death in the first 2 heats alone.
Infrastructure breakdown even affects their leisure.
Totally. Osborne crashes, gets his wheel fixed in 30 seconds, and ultimately wins the Grand Prix. A remarkable achievement for an amateur, especially then.
But there's that grim comment beforehand.
Yeah, a committee member notes half the drivers might have radiation sickness symptoms, diarrhea and vomiting, and the race might be won by the chap with the best tolerance to radioactivity.
Good grief. A race against each other and against the silent killer.
It highlights the pervasive, grotesque influence of their fate on everything, even desperate fun.
And Dwight gets a break, too. 2 days leave at Moira's family farm.
A stark contrast to submarine life. A brief return to a different reality. He does farm tasks, crutching sheep, shoveling silage, finds it very restful, good for the nerves. Simple physical labor. He admires the landscape, tells Moira, "You're mighty lucky to have a home in country like this, a world away from the silent, deadly ocean."
A moment of almost pastoral peace.
Right, connecting to those fundamental life rhythms that are fast disappearing. He and Moira go fishing too, another small escape.
Discussing bait, techniques.
Dwight likes a little frog. Moira tries fly fishing. She catches a 1.5-pound fish, a small victory in a world of defeat. That shared, simple pleasure highlights the human need for small triumphs, connection, even in the shadow of doom.
And Moira. She's quite direct, isn't she?
Very. Her blunt humor, a buggy, that's the word for it, is a foil to Dwight's reserved nature, his coping mechanism. She sees the absurdity, even mocks Dwight's denial about his family being alive.
What does she say?
We're all going a bit mad in our own way. That's his way. She sees his hope for what it is.
While Dwight clings to that belief, he'll get back to Mystic, Connecticut next September. Keeps the photos, avoids crying over babies.
It's a beautiful, heart-wrenching delusion. It keeps him functional. Moira, meanwhile, shares her own pragmatic despair. Refuses a smutty love affair because...
I got no time for that. Too bad.
Harsh, but you understand it. A blunt honesty cutting through pretense. So as the end gets closer, we see these profound personal connections, these emotional landscapes emerge as they face the inevitable. Mary and Peter Holmes, they keep clinging to their domestic life. They're concerned for baby Jennifer. Mary's joy over the new playpen, even while worrying about paint toxicity. It's just enduring motherly devotion.
That unbreakable bond, even facing oblivion.
And their gardening, planning for the next 10 years. It's this powerful, defiant act of hope, creating meaning, creating a future when logic says there isn't one. It's the extraordinary in the ordinary.
And Dwight Towers. His denial becomes this central coping mechanism, a necessary shield.
Absolutely. He holds on to that belief his wife Sharon and son Junior are alive and Mystic.
Yeah.
He talks about returning next September, a date that keeps shifting as the fallout gets closer. But the core belief remains. His reluctance to discuss their potential fate, not crying over babies, focusing on the photos. It's a profound, almost desperate denial for his sanity. A chosen delusion that lets him keep functioning as captain.
While Moira is the complete opposite, stark contrast. She's fully accepted, almost brutally so.
She confronts Dwight's denial. We're all going a bit mad in our own way. That's his way. She sees it clearly. And her refusal of that affair because she's dying in a week or 10 days' time, there's no time for that. Too bad. His pragmatic, almost cynical acceptance. Her unique strength, refusing to pretend.
So you see this whole spectrum of responses. Peter's practical plans, Mary's domestic focus, Dwight's denial, Moira's realism. A complex portrait of humanity grappling with the unimaginable.
Exactly. But maybe the most harrowing part is the unthinkable decision Peter and Mary have to make. About Jennifer.
This is where it just wrenches your gut. Test the absolute limits. Peter reveals the ultimate agonizing choices. Those 2 small red boxes.
Miles. Designed to let them die decently when things begin to get too bad. He says, there's no recovery, but you don't have to die in a mess.
A practical solution to a terrifying problem. Maintain control, dignity at the very end.
But the hardest part is Jennifer. She may live longer than you will. Peter presents the horrific alternative. Jennifer living on for days, crying and vomiting in her cot, lying in her muck with you dead on the floor,
No,
ready to help
wait,
her.
God.
His brutal honesty. Do you want her to die like that? If you do, I don't. Just think about it and don't be such a bloody fool.
Oh.
He forces Mary to confront the unthinkable, the ultimate act of parental love and mercy.
A decision no parent should ever face. But they face it with this horrifying clarity and compassion.
And the weight of that secret, that terrible preparation. Moira finds the riddle boxes later in the bathroom cabinet.
How does she react?
Initial disbelief. Then this dawning realization that one craziness was piled onto another. She understands the depth of their preparations, the secret burden her friends were carrying. It highlights the desperate measures taken to protect loved ones from the worst suffering.
Adds another layer to her understanding of their collective plight.
It does. And yet, despite the certainty of the end, there's still this poignant, almost absurd attempt to leave legacy for a future that might never come.
The vault on Mount Kosciuszko.
Right, a concrete cellar being built on Australia's highest peak to store crucial texts, maybe the Encyclopedia Britannica, intended as a history for when the world gets inhabited again. An act of almost desperate faith, a message in a bottle cast into the void.
A profound attempt at communication across time, and the discussion about what image to put on it. A fish, a seagull, just the word fish.
It's almost absurdly poignant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It highlights the desperate human need to leave something, to connect with a future generation that might be totally alien or might not exist at all. The ultimate act of hope, believing something might follow. And so the final weeks arrive, bringing the full, terrifying reality of the invisible killer. The radioactive dust reaches Australia. People start falling ill.
The symptoms, vomiting, weakness, the body just shutting down.
Right, and the spread is insidious, not uniform. Some people are more resistant than others, which creates this false, cruel sense of security initially.
But ultimately.
Ultimately, everybody gets it in the end. The timeline varies, but the outcome is certain, and the medical system just crumbles.
Dr. Hamilton, Osborne's mother's doctor.
Yeah.
He stops coming.
Yeah, because he was getting it himself. Shows how overwhelming, how personal it is. No one's exempt. Not even the healers.
It's a quiet descent into chaos, not a sudden explosion.
Exactly. And the signs of societal collapse become more pronounced. Streets uncleaned, shops closed for good, milk rationed, reserved for babies. Melbourne becomes dirty and stinking, a visible manifestation of the world's end.
People just get tired of it.
A deep weariness beyond fear. Resignation.
And John Osborne's last race, his legacy, that becomes central now. Winning the Grand Prix is his final triumphant act.
Even though the race itself was chaotic, perilous, only 3 finishers out of 18, 6 drivers killed outright, more hospitalized, a gruesome event underscoring the breakdown of safety, the desperation, a macabre spectacle.
But Osborne wins despite a crash.
Gets his wheel fixed, drives cautiously, wins after the leader crashes. It gives him that profound sense of rounding things off, a lifelong ambition fulfilled right at the end. And he acknowledges the grim irony, the risk potentially won by the chap with the best tolerance to radioactivity, a chilling nod to the thing that will claim them all. It's his final, meaningful act.
Then he goes home to care for his sick mother,
who succumbs quickly. And her final act is one of dignified control. She takes one of the red vials, leaves a note saying she doesn't want to spoil the last days of your life by hanging on to mine.
Terrible, loving choices people make.
Prioritizing the emotional well-being of the living over her own lingering existence. Her acceptance is heartbreakingly rational.
And John himself gets sick.
I've got it, he says. Nobody survives this thing. It makes a clean sweep. He wants to finish it after his duties are done. Faces death with that quiet, scientific detachment. Rationality against the irrational.
Then there's Dwight Towers' homecoming, his final order.
The ultimate chilling order.
Yeah.
Sail the USS Scorpion out into Bass Strait and sink her. Nowhere left to cruise to, really. Like South America, South Africa, gone.
New Zealand, maybe.
Sinking the Sug becomes a symbolic homecoming. Grim.
A return to the element that was their last refuge. He chooses to go down with the ship, himself and 10 remaining crew members. A deliberate act of agency.
A merciful alternative, he thinks. Better than death by sickness and diarrhea, homeless in a strange land. He rejects the idea of a tug bringing them back. A collective final act.
His last handshake with Peter Holmes.
A moment of profound farewell. The absolute end of their fellowship. For us listening, the end of their story together. A quiet, dignified surrender.
And Dwight's final words.
Almost wistful. I'm going home now, home to Mystic in Connecticut, and glad to go. It encapsulates his final, comforting delusion and his ultimate acceptance. He acknowledges his own illness, too, choosing not to take lunch, a subtle signal of his weakening state, his quiet resignation.
In the last moments, Peter and Mary, their shared fate.
Mary finds this tragic relief in the timing. But now we've got it all together on the same day. Aren't we lucky?
Twisted logic born of despair.
Finding solace only in a shared demise, they prepare for their final act, take the pills Peter got, ensuring a peaceful end for Jennifer first, then themselves. Immense heartbreak, but profound practical kindness. She prepares too, with her characteristic blend of pragmatism and poignancy. After that last fishing trip with Dwight, she goes home, puts on the red shirt and slacks that she had worn when she had met Dwight first of all.
A callback to their beginning.
A subtle, powerful link to their brief, unlikely connection. Then she takes her dose. Her last words to Dwight. Go now, Dwight. Maybe I'll see you in Connecticut one day.
Acceptance, dark humor, lingering impossible hope.
Speaks volumes about their connection and that enduring human desire for even a fictional reunion.
And the book ends there, not with explicit deaths.
No. It ends with the quiet, determined actions of the characters facing their final moments. Dwight sinks the sub. John processes his mother's death, his own end. Peter and Mary share their last moments with Jennifer. The narrative just fades, leaving us to ponder that quiet, universal end.
So we've navigated the profound, chilling world of On the Beach, a book that, despite its incredibly grim premise, really illuminates the remarkable resilience, the denial, the ultimate acceptance of human nature facing inevitable global catastrophe.
It distills this complex, horrifying scenario into such deeply personal stories. Survival, adaptation, poignant farewells. It forces us, you, to consider what truly matters when time is finite.
It's not just a grim warning, is it? It's like a mirror held up to our deepest fears, but also our enduring capacity for humanity, for connection.
Exactly. And for continued deep analysis, reflection on these complex themes, remember to explore Mindful Moments on our YouTube channel. It's where we offer that AI-powered book analysis designed to inspire rational thought, deeper understanding of these powerful narratives. Lets you delve further into the ideas that really resonate.
Definitely. And of course, you can find more of our podcasts wherever you usually listen. On the Beach ultimately asks us this chilling question, one that goes beyond its fictional setting. In a world where every tomorrow is counted, where the end is certain and visible, what would you choose to do with your remaining time?
Yeah. And who would you choose to be? How would you define a meaningful end? Not just for yourself, but for the people you cherish.
Heavy questions.
They are. If this discussion resonated with you, please subscribe to our show for more insightful explorations of compelling narratives that challenge us to think differently. And maybe share this particular discussion with others who might appreciate its powerful themes and lessons.
And if you feel moved to experience the full impact of this extraordinary book yourself, you can find On the Beach available for purchase. There should be a link in our description. Above all, we really encourage you to continue to think critically about the implications of stories like these for our own world and, well, the choices we make today.